Hey YouTube, Joe Walker here at Def Digits Guitar Lessons, and I'm doing a lesson right now for my student Roberto, going live right now to YouTube. Roberto's missing his lesson today. Plumbing emergency, not good, but I can still do a video lesson for him. And today I want to talk about passing tones in the minor pentatonic scale using the diagonal shape of the minor pentatonic scale. So I've shown this to Roberto before. I'm going to review it for him and for you, and I'm going to show you what I mean by passing tones in between those notes. It's kind of what I was just doing at the beginning, just riffing on E minor pentatonic in a couple different places, using the diagonal position and some passing tones in between. So let me review what this diagonal shape is. E minor pentatonic, probably the one you know would be this one up here, or this one down here. So I won't review those, we're not using them. We're using those same notes laid out in a diagonal way across the fretboard. Diagonal meaning we're going to be down on the low frets and low strings down here, and we're going to be moving towards higher frets and higher strings at the same time. So we're going to go open, low E, and then we got fret 3, 5, 7 on the low E string. So this is not a way where you can keep your hand in one place. I'm not playing it like this with 3 different fingers. I'm going to move. I'm going to use fingers 1 and 3 for all of the minor pentatonic notes through this. And then finger 2 is going to be getting the passing notes in between. So we've got fret 3, 5, 7, and then to the A string, we're going to get fret 5, 7. And that already sounds like our typical minor pentatonic scale. That's it. So we're going to keep going. On the D string, we're going to get fret 5, 7, 9. And the G string, we get fret 7 and 9. So far, we've just been on all of the dots. That's a nice thing to notice for guitar players on the fret markers. Fret markers are typically 3, 5, 7, 9. You can see mine here. On the top, they are dots. On the front, there are these trapezoid things. So far, it's been sticking to that pattern. But we're going to break it now on the B string. We go to fret 8, 10, 12 on the B string, and high E is fret 10, 12. And that gets us the full diagonal shape. Like that. I almost never use the entire thing, just running from bottom to top or top to bottom. I could probably if I wanted to use that in a run, but usually I'm not using all of it. I'm using just certain sections of it, just kind of moving around in that section, and I might move gradually from section to section. So when I was doing all those riffs, I was down in the low area, and I probably didn't touch the high strings very much. And if I'm soloing, I might be doing those high strings and not really touching the low area very much. So you don't need to play all of it all at once. Just know how to find all of those. Let's see. So now when we get those passing notes in between, we're going to take all of those moments where you had fingers 1 and 3, or you had 2 notes that were a whole step apart. So maybe here, fret 8 to 10, fret 10 to 12, or fret 7 to 9. Basically everywhere on the same string you had notes that were a whole step apart. So we can throw in the note in between as a passing note. And a passing note means we've got emphasize one note because it's in the scale, and then we use that passing note as a transition from one note to the other. When I sit here holding this note, it sounds kind of awkward in the context of it doesn't sound good over that scale. So whatever we're using that scale over, this probably isn't going to sound good over it either. But in this context, it sounds great, or the reverse, like that. So all of those in-between notes we're only going to use, for now, if we're using those passing notes, we're passing through them from one note that's in the scale to the passing note to the next note that's in the scale. So find a spot like this. I'm on the G string, fret 7, 8, and 9, and just try going back and forth. If you're going to play 7 and 9, try going 7, 8, 9. Just make a little song out of it like that. And you could take that little rhythm, just put it on any of these little places in the diagonal shape. So we can do it here maybe. Same frets on the D string. We can do it fret 5 to 7 on the D string. Do it fret 5 to 7 on the A string. 5 to 7 on the low E string. And 3 to 5. So you might have noticed that you can't use all of these passing tones in like a relentless fluid way because we don't have passing notes between all of the different notes. So let me try to explain that with an example. So we can go, then we're going to stop after that because we don't have a way to pass from here to here, the next note up in the scale. We can't really pass between all of the notes. We don't have a passing note from going from one string to the next. So we're going to use these sparingly, just sort of pepper them into whatever we're improvising with, and then also try to identify them when we see them in the solos that we're learning. So if we're doing something like so that was, what's the thing called? Manic Depression. It's a perfect example of two of those right there. That one's in the key of A, and it's going fret 5, 6, 7. And then on the D string, fret 5, 6, 7. So let me show you a couple more examples. Let's get back into E minor pentatonic. Let me just play around for a little bit and you try to see the spots where I'm using those in between notes. I'll slow it down a little bit and see if you can identify the times when you can probably see my fingers moving when I'm doing this, using all three of those fingers, and try to listen for those passing notes in between. They won't sound jarring when they're used in transition, but any one of those passing notes in the context of the rest of the scale would sound jarring if you stopped on it. Let me point out one other thing that I'm doing that I might be doing it subconsciously at this point. I'm usually using that passing note, on the upbeat between notes. So I might be putting those scale notes on downbeats like that instead of that. When you put that passing note on a downbeat, it's a little bit more dangerous. It's a little bit like you're emphasizing it, even though you're not stopping there on it. So those sound a little bit awkward, but not quite unusable. Just try to use those sparingly. Try to listen to the way that you're traveling from a scale note through the passing tone to the next scale note. Let me show you one more thing here. The other diagonal pentatonic in the key of E minor pentatonic would be up here, and we can do all the same stuff up here. So now we're going fret 10, 12, 10, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14, 16, 15, 17, 15, 17, 19. So it still follows the same pattern that you saw down here, just with the root in a different place. Now your lowest root is here, over in this position, your lowest root, aside from the low E string, was here on the A string. So now with this as your new anchor, you can do all the same stuff down there. You can use it to make riffs, like Manic Depression. You can use it in your solos whenever you have two notes that are a whole step apart. If you're soloing in E minor pentatonic land, in like in the Old Faithful, that kind of position, every place where you have two notes that are fingers 1 and 3 typically, you can do fingers 1, 2, 3, or 3, 2, 1. So you see a few of those here in the usual box position. When you move up to the next box, if you do one of these moves, like when you move up to that next box, you have 3 more places where you can do it. So that's all I've got for you to explore on this. Is I think a good place to apply this, if you're working on the blues like Roberto is, put on just any blues backing track. Just search YouTube for like blues backing track in E and practice going through these little shapes. Just use the minor pentatonic all the way through and just practice playing these little shapes in the context of a backing track. And it's a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time. Merry Christmas.